Today, we are diving into one of the most pivotal, just absolutely gut-wrenching moments in world literature, the great gambling match from the epic Mahabharata. And this isn't just a story about a game, It's about the complete unraveling of a kingdom, a family, and really an entire era of honor.
Our source material kicks things off with this totally chilling line. It really frames the entire event not as some simple game of chance, but as a profound moral failure. A moment where a kingdom and even a queen were just reduced to property, nothing more than bargaining chips. Okay, so let's get into how it all went so wrong.
And this was the stage. I mean, it looks simple enough, right? But this board would become the epicenter of a national tragedy. This was a game that was crooked from the very beginning, driven by two of the most destructive emotions you can imagine: pure, raw envy and a long, simmering desire for revenge.
So let's start with that envy. This whole story really begins with this toxic emotion and a scheme that was born right out of it.
The fuse is lit by one man, Duryodhana. He is just consumed by jealousy for his cousins, the Pandavas. It's not that he's poor or powerless, it's that they always seem to have more. More wealth, a grander kingdom, a better reputation. And this feeling, this gnawing sense of inferiority, well, that's what sets the entire catastrophe in motion.
So along comes Duryodhana's uncle, Shakuni. He sees his nephew's pain and he proposes let's call it a solution. He basically says, look, your cousin Yudhishtira may be great, but he has one fatal flaw. The man loves to gamble. He can't resist it. So just invite him to a game, he won't say no, and let me play for you. My dice will do whatever I command. The plan was simple, to strip the Pandavas of everything they own.
Which kind of raises a question, right? Why would an uncle be so eager to orchestrate the ruin of his own extended family? You'd think he'd want to protect his nephew's house, not help burn it to the ground. Well, it turns out Shakuni was playing a much longer game.
And here's where this incredible hidden backstory comes in. Years before, the family patriarch, Bhishma, felt he'd been deceived by Shakuni's family, so he had them all imprisoned. He didn't just execute them, he did something much crueler. He gave them just a handful of rice each day, just enough to make sure they would slowly starve to death. And in that dungeon, his family made a pact. They gave every last grain of rice to Shakuni, the smartest one, so that he alone would survive to avenge them. And with his last breath, his father gave him one final, chilling instruction. Take my finger bones and craft dice from them. They'll be filled with my rage, and they will never fail you.
Just imagine that. Shakuni watched his father and his brothers waste away to nothing. So all this loyalty to his nephew Duryodhana, it was just a mask, a cover for a deep, patient, and all-consuming plot to destroy the entire KURU household from the inside out. He wasn't helping his nephew. He was using him as a weapon. Okay, so now let's see how this secret vengeance actually plays out at the gambling match. This is where the plan unfolds with horrifying precision. The game begins, and right away, Yudhishtira is caught in this hypnotic rhythm of ruin. He bets his chariots. Shakuni rolls. Lo, I have won. He bets his jewels and his treasury. Lo, I have won. His servants, his elephants, his entire kingdom, and with every single throw, his defeat just fuels his desperate desire to win it all back. And with every throw, he hears that same chilling refrain.
I mean, just look at the despair here. The Pandava brothers can only watch, begging their older brother to please just stop. But Yudhishtira is trapped. He's convinced the very next roll will be the one that saves him. He's lost everything material, but the game isn't over, not even close.
And this is where things get truly unthinkable. With all his wealth gone, Yudhishtira starts staking his own family. First, his stepbrothers, loses. Then, his own brothers, the great warriors Bhima and Arjuna, he loses again. Then, he stakes himself and becomes a slave. And finally, with absolutely nothing left to his name, he makes the 17th and final wager, their shared wife, Draupadi. And with that last roll of the dice, a private disaster explodes into a public spectacle. A moment that really symbolizes the complete and utter collapse of law and honor.
When the messenger comes to summon her as a slave, Draupadi doesn't just obey. No, she's sharp, she's intelligent, she is defiant. She sends back this brilliant legal challenge. If Yudhishtira had already lost himself and was a slave, then what legal right did he have to stake me? He owned nothing, not even himself.
Yeah, but logic and law? They've left the building at this point. Annoyed by her questions, Duryodhana sends his brother, Dushasana, to just go get her by force. He bursts into the women's quarters, grabs Queen Draupadi by the hair, and drags her into the hall filled with the kingdom's elders, who all just sit there and watch in stony silence.
Duryodhana then orders the final, ultimate humiliation for Draupadi to be stripped naked in front of the entire court. And as Dushasana grabs her sari and starts to pull, something incredible happens. A miracle. The fabric just becomes endless. No matter how much he pulls, another layer appears, protecting her body and her honor when no man in that hall would.
You see, this whole event is so much more than a personal violation. It's profoundly symbolic. The source explains that the clothed goddess represents civilization, cosmic law, what's known as Dharma. To unclothe her is to unleash chaos, the law of the jungle, adharma, where might makes right. This act was the symbolic collapse of their entire society. So from this absolute rock-bottom moment, the seeds of a terrible, terrible war are sown. Let's look at the immediate aftermath, vows of vengeance, and one final, fateful game.
So after the miracle, Draupadi, her eyes just flashing with fire, makes a terrifying vow. She says she will not tie up her hair again until she has washed it in the blood of the man who dragged her there, Dushasana. Hearing this, her husband Bhima roars out his own promise. He will not only kill the Kauravas, but he will drink that blood and shatter the very thigh that Duryodhana exposed to mock his wife.
All of a sudden, these terrible omens start appearing. Jackals howling, bad stuff. And the blind king Dhritarashtra, he gets scared. He steps in, apologizes, and restores everything the Pandavas had lost. Their freedom, their kingdom, all of it. But just as they're leaving, they get taunted. What? You lost in a game, but you'll accept it all back as charity? Come on. Play one final game. Win back your honor.
And against all reason, against all common sense, Yudhishtira agrees. And the wager for this final game? It's devastating. The losers have to spend 12 years in exile in the forest, followed by a 13th year living completely in hiding. And if they're discovered at any point during that final year, the entire 13-year cycle starts all over again.
Of course, Shakuni rolls his magical dice one last time, and they lose. The Pandavas and Draupadi walk away from their kingdom, into exile. But they don't go quietly. Their actions are these silent vows. Yudhishtira covers his face so his angry glare doesn't burn the city down. Arjuna trails a handful of sand, promising a storm of arrows will one day return. Their punishment has begun, but the promise of war, that is now sealed.
The source material suggests this whole game of dice is a metaphor for life itself. This mix of fate, which is the roll of the dice, and free will, how you decide to move your pieces. After a loss this total, a humiliation this deep, and vows this bloody, the question just hangs there. What moves could possibly be left? It really seems like the only move left is war.